Right.
So
Right. Liberty and justice for all. Please, Lord. City Clerk Ed Norris, would you call the roll?
Mayor Fellow,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar. Here. Councilmember Burr. Here. Councilmember Radner. Here. And Councilmember Whitehead. Here.
Okay, everyone's here. We have a quorum. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? That was Edgar's second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda. These are items that are presented without discussion as a single item, but if any council member wants to discuss it, please feel free to ask it to be dropped from the blanket motion. A, regular city council meeting minutes of January 18th, 2022. Public safety activity summary for November 2021. Library board meeting minutes of December 21st, 2021. Parks and Recreation Commission meeting minutes of November 17th. Request to approve payment application number 1 to DMV Utilities Incorporated for the 2021 sewer and catch basin cleaning and TV inspection project M728 in the amount of $35,505.13. F, request to advertise for bids for the 9-mile linear park landscaping project M739. Yeehaw. G, Corridor Improvement Authority board meeting minutes of December 16th, 2021. And H, licenses, new and renewals submitted for February 7th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem, second. Councilmember Burns. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. I don't see, is there anyone, any elected official here? Nope. Presentation. Is there someone from Oakland County going to present on tax foreclosure prevention? We'll move that for either later in the meeting or a later meeting. So go to 7B. 9-mile linear park design presentation from OHM. All right, we are all about you. Can you introduce us, give us your name, please? And make sure that green light is on your mic. Yeah.
Hear me all right? My name is Chris Riggert. I'm a landscape architect from
Chris, would you
OHM
spell your
Advisors.
last name?
Yes, ma'am. Riggert.
Thank you.
So I have a presentation here on the laptop. Can you guys see it wherever?
It's gonna be up on the monitors in just a moment, I believe.
All right.
There we go.
All right, excellent. Well, I'll just jump in and share with you what we've prepared here. We've had the pleasure of working with city staff to progress landscaping concepts for the 9-mile linear park to the point we're going to share with you this evening. The presentation we have is the same presentation we shared with staff maybe a week or two ago, so I'll plan to run through in a 10-minute or less time frame and share the feedback that we received from staff And as I understand, welcome any comments from administration and from council for our consideration as we take the plans to the next level. So let's dive in here. We started this project by conducting some site inventory and analysis of our own, in addition to a walkthrough with staff to look at the existing conditions. You can see here that it was the middle of winter when we took our photos, but some of the observations that we made here drove our design concepts. At a high level, what some of these things that we observed were, making sure that there is proper buffering between some of the play areas and amenities and the roadway, and that would impact our plant material choice. Throughout the park, you can see that second photo on the left is pretty wide open, and we're lacking tree cover and shade, which is an important part to making a space comfortable. We also noted a few site grading and drainage issues, which we believe can be addressed with some proper plant material in the right location. As we noted too, the pads are out there. They don't have benches on them yet. However, the anticipation is that those are areas that we want to be able to make sure are shaded so that as people are sitting on benches, it's an enjoyable space. And like I said, site grading, site drainage are all issues that we sort of wrapped into our landscape concept. Some of the things that we heard from staff that drove our design here is to make sure that this is a high-impact landscape, but also a landscape that's within the capabilities of the city to maintain. So that means something that is fairly bulletproof, but we can get a good amount of color and interest out of, but again, making sure that it's something that can look good from year to year with maintenance from the city. Safety is of safety in mind. That's a high priority for us to consider. We do believe that the landscaping is an important layer that's going to help complete the park and just continue to create a vibrant and safe space for both park users and for people passing by the park. A need for shade, so again, creating spaces that are comfortable for use, creating interest year-round, so 4 seasons. Even in the winter, you can get some landscapes that look really nice with the proper plant selection. Entrance enhancements and overall beautification, continuing the work that's been done to create a vibrant space and translating that into the plant material that we'll put in. Some character images of kind of what do we think could happen here. I think these are pretty aspirational, but the idea that we're creating enriching spaces, really nice spaces that have a lot of color, texture, variation that residents can enjoy. And this is a good graphic here to show the overall concept of, I think, the backbone of what we're proposing. And so what you can see here is the entrance ways are all highlighted as major focuses for landscaping. So that's Scotia, that's the road in the middle that is not labeled here, and that's Rosewood on the east end. Those would be locations that would be bookends to the park that we can highlight with ornamental landscape. We're also highlighting the crossings, both to celebrate, pedestrian movement, but also mark that for drivers to know that that's a point where we're going to see pedestrians crossing. And then you can see the rainbow that kind of runs across, and the thought there is that we're going to have a really robust base plant material there that's going to last and look good year-round, either through evergreens or through woody species that'll have structure and provide form to the park throughout the year. But also is accompanied with perennials that will change color throughout the year. And so here, we've actually taken the literal rainbow, and so from one side of the park to the other, you'll see a variation of plant material throughout the year. It probably won't all be a rainbow at once.
That's lovely.
But throughout the year, you'll see different parts of the park they'll be in bloom and they'll be of interest. So you'll get a lot of really evocative and enriching aesthetic throughout the year. So that's kind of the overall idea. We've got a few sketches in here that illustrate the thought process that we went through as we started to generate the plans. You can see the furnishings have been installed on the left, and they have a really nice bright pop of color. And so the image on the right is our sketch showing the texture and the plant material that help enclose that and make it feel like a comfortable space. You can see there's some grasses there, there's some more shrub-looking material, there's also some trees. So you get multiple layers of plant material. Here's an image that really builds from, I think, what's out there now, which are these big flowering sculptures you know, the ability to plant some landscapes there that really tie the two together, I think will be really interesting. So you can see some color here that ties between the color of the sculptures and the landscape material. Again, really accentuating where the crossings are so that drivers know, you know, where that's going to be. And also, I think importantly to point out here is that there was thought put to the scale of plantings to make sure that we're not actually creating something that creates blind spots for drivers or pedestrians. So the material, even though it will be nice and dense, will be of a height that you can see, you know, driver can see pedestrian, pedestrian can see driver. And that's really important to making this, you know, as safe as can be, while also providing a physical barrier. And here's the last concept sketch that we have here, which shows the enclosure that you may get from the ornamental trees and the landscape underneath. And so in the plan, you can see this kind of replicates throughout the park. So we did present a schematic level drawing here, and I don't know that we need to walk through, unless I'm happy to do so, but I don't necessarily need to walk through every plant location choice. But I think in general, the move here was really to make sure, again, we're providing shade where people are going to be sitting or playing. We're also providing softness around some of these pads and around the site furnishings that have been installed, and providing, you know, a physical barrier at certain locations where we do have site furnishings that are closer to the road. So you can see this is a great example here of some plantings that at this level we're just kind of locating plantings. We haven't put exact plants in the ground, but you can see a strip of planting there that's meant to buffer that seating area from the road to make it a more comfortable area. And if I have a pointer here, I can point at. Maybe I don't have a pointer. No, okay. And I believe these are all in everybody's packets. So if you're so inclined to give it an in-depth review, I believe it is available. One item to note is that I believe, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's a plan to erect about 60 feet worth of fence at this corner of the park to, again, provide just a little bit more separation from the play area to the road. And this is one area where we did have some modifications at the request of staff to enhance the buffering to make sure we're providing the separation. Am I correct on all those points?
I think we were getting questions from parents and grandparents about a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old coming. The park is basically for school-age kids, but little kids come along, that they shouldn't run into the street.
Absolutely.
So it looks absolutely beautiful.
Great. I think that's for the most part. If I can get the plan back, I think there's a few shots in here of the landscape material that we were working with. In general, the material that we're putting in is about as bulletproof as you can get. Things that'll survive urban conditions, that'll survive salt, and it'll do well for the city over the years. One piece of feedback we did get from staff is to enhance the level of sort of mid-level plantings. So that's the woody species, the evergreens, the non-flowering material that helps make the park feel more intuitive, and again, just defines the different zones within the park. So where's the play area, where's the walk area, where's the crossing, where's the roadway? And this is the image that's kind of fun that shows that rainbow effect from one end of the park to the other. So you can imagine that on the left end here is Scotia. The middle is the other street that divides the two, and as you walk east along the park, you know, you pass through these different planting zones of different colored material throughout the park.
Oh, pretty.
With that, the cost estimate that we have right now, which is a general high level, is coming in around probably $130,000, $140,000. And I believe, you know, just to make sure that I do share the feedback we received, you know, making sure that the buffering is in there is really important, making sure the shade is in there for folks that may be sitting on the benches. We did have some revisions to make sure that we're providing that level of buffering throughout the park. So.
Okay. Wonderful. Looks great. Can you make sure that you send us this presentation?
Absolutely.
Email
Got
it.
I'll send it to you guys. Madam Mayor, can
Yes.
we ask a question?
Yes, are there questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Hi. Looks good. Couple things. One, are you going to build in bioswales and other sorts of rain gardens to absorb water?
So there are a number of bioswales out there currently that were built with the pathway project, and there's swales that run along between the pathway and the fence line. And so the plantings and where we locate them capitalize on those and make sure that whatever plants we put in there can handle the wet conditions that come with the flooding of the bioswale. So we don't, I guess to answer that, we're not creating new bioswales, but we're building from the ones that are there currently.
And secondly, the species of flowers that you put in or plants, I feel very strongly that they should be native to Michigan. I've heard from some residents who don't love the fact that we are planting things that deplete the soil. They're not native. I saw loosestrife in one of your pictures. That's not native.
Yeah.
So I hope that doesn't appear, even though it's pretty.
Absolutely. It's good feedback because, that was a decision that we had made is, which we always strive to use native species as much as possible because it's one of the more responsible plant choices. And in this case, we did have primarily, a number of native species with some other exotics in there. But if it's the desire of council, then by all means, I think we can accommodate that for sure.
Any other further questions, comments? Looks gorgeous. I think this is such a worthwhile investment in city pride and the way it looks. I had a call saying, oh, I don't like the way the playground looks. I said, wait until spring, until we get it planted. You will love it, and you will be proud of what it looks like. So we're all about that. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Absolutely. Thanks.
And I see we have the Oakland County Treasurer, Robert Wittenberg, here to talk to us about tax foreclosure prevention for Oakland County. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here and see all of you, all these familiar faces up here and behind me. It has been some time, both from the standpoint it's been, what has it been, a year? Over a year since I was serving as state representative in this area, and then COVID, and so it's really nice to see all of you here. So as for those that don't know at home and wherever else, I was the state representative before, and now I'm the Oakland County Treasurer, following in some big footsteps, the mayor's son, and just took office actually July 1st. So out of 83 counties in the state, there's only 2 counties, and it's just for the treasurer that you take office July 1st. So it was about 8 months from being elected to actually taking office. So it was a long ramp up. My predecessor, Andy Meisner, brought me into the office part-time to learn the ropes and get to meet everyone, and thankfully the whole team stayed on board. The office, was run very well, and so the team's all still there. So it's been really great opportunity working in that office. The team, make me look good. They help out quite a bit, and so now we're just trying to get out to let people know kind of what we're doing to try to prevent foreclosure. Foreclosure is not something that we want to do. It's based on state law. It is roughly like a 3-year process, and so right now, 2019 and prior year taxes, if someone owes their 2019 and prior year taxes, then they are subject to foreclosure this year. And so we're trying to get out and let people know what resources are available and try to prevent any foreclosure from happening. So I have just a couple notes that I'll go through to kind of talk you through, and then I'm happy to go over anything else or answer any other questions you have. But this is kind of the main thrust of trying to work my way around, starting near my house, a mile away from here, but then going to see some of the other cities throughout Oakland County. We are a large county. It's a lot bigger than a state house district. The number one thing we've been telling everyone is that we are here to help. We don't want people to be scared to reach out to our office. If people don't reach out to our office, we don't know that they need help. So we're really encouraging people to reach out to our office, and I'll give our contact information. You can call our office 248-858-0611. Still learning. You can go to our website, oakgov.com/treasurer, or you can email treasurer@oakgov.com. The deadline to get on what's called either a repayment schedule or to pay off your taxes for 2019 and prior is March 31st. Otherwise, you are subject to foreclosure. We ran the numbers. There are actually 52 parcels here in Oak Park specifically that are subject to foreclosure by that date. So if anyone's listening at home, or, you know, I can send a spreadsheet to you, council members and mayor and anyone else in the city, if you want to help us really getting in touch with people to let them know, you know, to try to get them on a repayment schedule. We have within our office the Financial Empowerment Center. So Rita, who works in that office, actually used to work with JVS and does a lot of home, you know, housing counseling. She's kind of like a financial coach and helps people find grants that might be available to them. So encourage people to reach out. I know the mayor reached out to me on something, and I put you / the person, the resident that you were helping, in touch with Rita within our office as well. So you can call her directly, 248-807-5287. Some of the other resources, just to make people aware of.
Can you
there's-
repeat Rita again?
Sure, yep, 248-807-5287. Or you can email her, it's NAFSO, NAFSOR for Rita, nafsor@oakgov.com. The other two that we have no affiliation with, but they're nonprofits that are very helpful and we want people to be aware of, is the Accounting Aid Society. They offer free services, and you can call them 313-556-1920. And they're also available every Saturday from 9:30 to 3 at the county building, the Board of Commissioners. They're there to help as well, so if anyone wants to head up that way, or you can call them. As well, Lakeshore Legal Aid. It's a free legal clinic for seniors and low-income families. We refer a lot of people over to Lakeshore Legal Aid. You can call them at 888-783-8190. Again, 888-783-8190. And let me see here. The last thing that to let people know about the state has started a new program which will actually go live next week. It's actually going live on Valentine's Day, called, the acronym is MIHAF, but it's the Michigan Homeowners Assistance Fund, MIHAF. And it is a fund for people that were impacted by COVID, their jobs, or lost a family member, and it helps them repay, it's mortgage assistance, utilities assistance, back tax assistance, and so it's a great program. The state used to have a program called Step Forward, which ended in 2020. This is a pretty similar program. I think actually it's more expansive, I think, for people that, how they can qualify or who can qualify, but it's specific to COVID. And so the program will be live. They can give up to $25,000 per family. And so we're really encouraging people to look that up or call our office. I don't have the website, but I think if you Google Michigan, so it's MISHDA, it's through the State Housing Development Authority, but it's MIHAF, and if you look that up, there's an application process. And so we're really encouraging people to apply to that program as well. So I think I just spit out a lot of information.
If you
but
could
just-
send us all those, the
Sure.
names and the contacts and everything, we'll put it in our mayor's message, and we'll put it on our website, and
Yep, that's a great idea. We'd
I think
appreciate
that people are scared when they're in that kind of position and tend to avoid things, and if they know that there's a way to get help, that,
And that's, without question, and that's what we try to tell people, is like, we are here to work with you, right? We want people to understand that we do not want to foreclose on people, right? Foreclosure is bad, not only for the family, but for the neighborhood, right? It can impact the neighborhood, and so for us, it's really important to do everything we can to try to keep people in their homes, and businesses, try to keep businesses open as well. So we just want people to know that they can reach out to us, and we will try to put them in touch to get any kind of resources that might be available to them. Like I said, set them up on a repayment schedule. We need that open line of communication, because if there's no communication and we don't know, then they can be foreclosed on. So yeah, that's my update. I appreciate the time, and it's good to see all of you. If you have other questions, please reach out to me. But I obviously keep tabs on everything going on in Oak Park, just because I live one block across from Oak Park, and obviously used to live here in Oak Park, and all the amazing things going on, and it's so awesome to see. And like, I've been frequenting 11 Mile quite a bit. I know Berkeley Coffee, it's Berkeley Coffee here in Oak Park, but hopefully they'll be back up and running soon, because we need our fix, and it's close. So, but no, all the things, Kim, everyone that you're all doing here, it really is just amazing. Oak Park is just such an awesome city. It really is, and thank you. That, honestly, it's a testament to the leadership here and everyone that's behind me, and that might not be here right now, so.
Amen. Anyone on council have a question for the Oakland County Treasurer?
Uh-oh.
Mainly because of our awesome mayor.
Is that what it is?
Who will take total credit for everything?
Yeah. We
The
know it's
rest of
not,
these slackers just sit around.
well, it's definitely not Councilmember Radner, that's for sure. He's just a pretty face. He's there for show. Love you too. Love you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you all.
coming. A pleasure to see you. Best of luck in your new
Likewise.
office, and
Thank you.
I know you're going to make a difference, and we will work with you on those 52 parcels that are in Oak Park.
And anything else, right, moving forward, if there's ways we can partner and things we can be doing, please let me know. You know, I'm always happy to help, and I really enjoy helping everyone, so please feel free to reach out.
Rob Wittenberg, our new Oakland County Treasurer. Thank you
Thank you.
so very much.
Thank you.
We have no public hearings, communications, special licensing, or accounting reports. We are down to item 12, bids. This is a pretty standard one. Request to award the bid for the 2022 sewer lining project M730 to Instaform of Chesterfield, Missouri, for the total amount of $365,768.70. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So that was Burns and Radner. Thank you. Is there somebody that can talk about this? Is that Dave? No? Oh, our city engineer. Welcome. I understand you are the first woman that we've had as a city engineer.
I believe so. We're not sure. I mean, there's not really complete records on that, but
Delighted to have you.
it's likely. Yes, so we would like to award the bid to Instituform of Chesterfield, Missouri. It's a standard bid, and we have a $600,000 budget, the balance of which has already gone to the storm inlet structure rehab and replacement project. That total came out to about $204,000. So we intend to pay the whole, basically use the whole $600,000 budget. So we may add sewer lines for lining as we proceed.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Have we used this company before for sewer lining?
Yes,
And obviously, we're satisfied with them, and they came in as the low bidder?
yes, out of 2 bids.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Let's see, we need, if there are no further questions, we need a roll call vote.
Councilmember Burr,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead.
Yes.
Okay, item 13, that passes then, of course, unanimously. Item 13 is ordinance, first reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 14, Animals, Article 1, Code of Ordinances, City of Oak Park, Michigan, by amending Section 14.7 thereof. The amendment removes references to one-year pilot program and allows the keeping of domestic chickens. So we need a motion to approve the first reading.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Radner, and is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Whitehead. And who can speak to us about the chickens?
I will do so. Good evening, Madam Mayor,
There you go. Yeah, if it's green, it's on.
The amendment that we're speaking of tonight is a follow-up to the ordinance that was passed last year that allowed domestic chickens in the city of Oak Park. The ordinance allowed for a maximum of 5 residences to maintain domestic chickens for their own use, no commercial use allowed. And part of that ordinance allowed for a domestic pilot program that was to extend for a period of 12 months and subject to the extension by the discretion of council. So we're asking council tonight to approve the first reading of an ordinance to amend that section to remove the pilot program and make this a permanent part of the code of ordinances. The Department of Technical and Planning has advised that there have been no incidences of issues with people maintaining the chickens, and I believe we have 2 or 3 licenses that are currently outstanding right now.
And we were talking about, is 3 enough, is 3 chickens instead of 6 chickens? Something addressed?
I don't believe that has been an issue to date. It seems that the residents that are participating are satisfied with the ordinance as written.
So you have a motion and second. Other questions about the chickens? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead,
Yes.
and Councilmember Burns.
No.
4 to 1, thank you. Motion carried. I think there are people concerned about issues with chickens, but I think that as far as rats and other things, our ordinance has protected us against all of those. B, first reading of ordinance from chapter 38, Environment, Article 3, Division 2, of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oak Park, Michigan, by amending section 3872 thereof. Of Ringelmann Smoke Chart as published by the United States Geological Survey for smoke measurement to ensure consistency with provisions of the zoning ordinance. Let's get a motion and a second, and then we can vote.
Second.
Edgar and Radner. I wonder if our city attorney would explain this one to the resident.
As council may remember, we recently amended our zoning ordinance to provide for significant revisions. And one of those revisions required the use of the Ringelmann smoke chart to measure the density of smoke for purposes of identifying potential nuisances
Mayor McClellan. Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead,
Yes.
Councilmember Burns,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. 15A, I'd like to ask Deputy DPW Director Dave DeCoster to join me at the podium, please.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City Manager Tungate. Before you tonight is a proposal from OHM Advisors to provide engineering, design, construction support services for the 8-mile booster station rehabilitation project M732. This proposal will cover the design, bidding, and construction services to assist in the successful pump work to be performed at the 8-mile booster station. Proposed work will include the removal of old pumps, installation of a new pump, as well as a new VFD. This work will provide for a more reliable and efficient pumping operation and better redundancy for our water system. It is recommended that City Council approve the attached proposal from OHM Advisors for the total amount of $41,800. There is $250,000 dedicated for this work in the Water and Sewer Fund.
So moved.
Second.
We currently have 4 pumps at our 8-mile booster station, and 2 of the pumps are a little undersized for our size city, so we don't use those pumps currently. The plan is to remove those 2 pumps and replace with 1 new pump. Correct. Correct, yeah. No, those are 2 separate issues. So this is domestic water that we pump in from the Great Lakes Water Authority. It comes through our 8-mile pumping station and pumps into the entire city. Incoming domestic drinking water. So the flooding issue is going to be more of a stormwater issue, but this is unrelated. I wouldn't say long overdue. Like I said, we currently have 4 pumps. We are only utilizing 2 of the pumps right now, so we're rotating. Tuesday we'll use pump 1, Wednesday pump 2, back to pump 1. We would like some more redundancy, so if we do lose a pump, we have that 3rd pump to be able to back up the 1st and 2nd pumps. Obviously, you can see the original design included 4 pumps, so they had a multiple pump redundancy to help out our water system. So we're comfortable removing 1 of the pumps, but we would still like to have 3 total pumps in the system. It is on.
Say it again?
It is on Coolidge, on the west side of Coolidge, just north of 8 Mile. Right behind the
Oh.
BP, right behind the BP gas station.
Yeah, that little boxy looking place.
Yeah, there's 2 small
Yep.
precast structures there.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead,
Yes.
Councilmember Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar,
Yes.
and Mayor McClellan.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Item B.
15B, I'd like to ask City Engineer Kara Grissomer to join me at the podium to go over this item, please. Long-awaited item, should I say.
Mm.
All right. Is this going to be on the screens? Okay, perfect. Okay, I have a brief presentation. Some of these slides you've seen before, but we are asking for approval for the residential and commercial stormwater credit program. Okay, so we've divided it into residential and commercial credits. And we've decided that residents will be available 2 different types of mitigation systems for credits. They can get $50 per year in credit for rain barrels and $60 in credit per year for rain gardens. Both of these things must pick up at least 50% of the roof runoff, which means if you've got a typical gable 1-point roof and it comes down to two gutters, and then each of those gutters has 1 downspout, that 1 downspout picks up 50% of the roof runoff on the front of the house, and again, 50% of roof runoff on the back of the house. So this is on the house itself. It does not include garages, although people are more than welcome to have 3-4 rain barrels or rain gardens, but the maximum credit will be $50 or $60. And they can also reduce the impervious surfaces and replace them with planted surfaces, and that would recalculate the way we calculate their stormwater utility.
So if there's a back patio or something that isn't used and you pull it up and put maybe pavers in?
It would depend on the type of pavers, but yes, if you had more like a gravel garden or something like that, where it wouldn't be as impervious as a paver, or areas of pavers with gravel between it would be more likely, yes.
And information is going out to residents on this?
Yes, we will be sending something to everyone eventually. Right now, we will be sending the applications and everything to the people who have already expressed interest in these programs.
Good.
Madam Mayor, that assumes that City Council approves these programs tonight, so.
Yep. So, questions, please. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
So it costs $30 to apply for a credit.
Yes.
And how much does a typical cistern cost?
Rain barrels range from 100 to a few hundred if you want a fancy one. What we did to compare our program with other surrounding communities, we compared ourselves to Ann Arbor, Birmingham, and Detroit. Ann Arbor does not have application fees. Birmingham has a $50 stormwater credit fee and a low impact development determination fee. Those are both $50. And Detroit does not have application fees.
So do you pay this application fee yearly?
No, the residential program would be renewed every 3 years, and the commercial credit program would be renewed every 5 years. And the fee simply takes care of the fee for somebody to go out to the property and look at the things and make sure everything is in working order and well maintained.
So it doesn't matter how many rain barrels you have, it's still the same credit.
For residences, yes. For commercial properties, they will get a % reduction.
So you've compared us with, you've looked at the fees for Ann Arbor, Detroit, and
Birmingham.
And they're roughly the same amount?
There are cities that are not charging stormwater fees, and there are cities that are charging $50.
But the credits that
For the
we're
fee.
offering, that you're proposing that we offer,
Our credits, let's see. Ann Arbor offers rain barrel credits in the amount of $14.04. Rain garden credits in the amount of $28.84. Birmingham's rain barrel is $60 credit and $80 for a rain garden. And Detroit is based on percentages for each property. They don't have set fees.
And do they also have stormwater fees?
Yes, all these communities have stormwater utility.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there other questions about this credit? People are very interested in what, when they can get the credit, how much it costs. So it's $30 for 3 years, so it's $10 a year basically.
Yes,
And that's paying for the guy coming out and checking
yes,
his
basically.
time.
Yes, it's to pay for the personnel to show up and make sure everything's in working order.
Are we okay with the fee and with the application fee? Any input?
I've heard some residents say it's really not worth it because of the cost of the rain barrels and maintaining them and using the water to get a $50 credit per year. I mean, they're saying it's a wash. It doesn't, it's.
That's
You
true.
paid for the rain barrel once.
Right, but you
Keeps
get
going for
$50 over the course of a year for having one. You're doing something good.
Mhm. So basically our point of view is that reducing stormwater through green infrastructure has a benefit to prevent flooding, but it doesn't reduce the cost to the city to treat the stormwater. A rain barrel is a drop in the bucket compared to what we have. We have 10,994 active stormwater utility accounts, 11,876 total accounts, and those accounts are divided up equally, well, basically equally. So there's a cost to providing and maintaining the infrastructure that everyone is using, the roads, the drains, everything. So if one property pays very little, the costs are borne by everyone else.
Any further questions? Are you ready to vote then? Mhm. Let's see, stormwater. Okay, so.
Madam Mayor, we
yes.
need a motion.
We don't have a motion. A motion to approve the residential and commercial stormwater credit program. A motion and a second, please. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, and a second?
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Whitehead. If there's no further discussion, we can have a roll call.
Councilmember Whitehead.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes,
Councilmember Radner.
Yes.
motion carried. Be interested in getting a report on how many people take advantage of it. Yeah. All right, thank you.
We'll include this as part of our quarterly updates going forward as well.
Quarterly updates. We'll get feedback as a quarterly on these. And talk to your residents and see what their feedback is.
Okay, 15C, I would like to call Communications Director Courtney Flynn to the podium to join me, please.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I would like to request authorization to approve the revised web services sale agreement, which would be for $6,310. This sales agreement would allow us to essentially reskin and update our website. This is the same company that we have been using since 2016, and the website, from my understanding, has not been updated since then. So the sales agreement would allow us to provide essentially a new look for the website, increased usability, an entire refresh, and then remapping of the back end, which would make a lot of, I guess, allow for information to be found easier on the website, increased searching abilities, We would probably get rid of a lot of duplicate web pages and just make it overall easier to use for the public.
Good.
I'll
Always-
make the motion.
Thank you. A motion by Councilmember Radner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Whitehead. Discussion or questions? Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm so glad we're going to do this.
Yeah.
It really needs a refresh. But I'd like to see us make it a lot easier for people to find links to our meetings. I think sometimes I even have trouble, navigating the website. So if it makes it more navigable, I'm all for it.
Yes, so there will be a complete refresh, and a lot of it will be driven by the pages that are accessed the most right now, so making sure that those pages are found easily on our homepage, condensing a lot of the information, again, making sure there's not multiple pages with the same information, so if you search it on Google versus our website, you're getting pulled different information.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yes, please. Councilmember Whitehead.
When will we start seeing the changes if we move forward with this company, or?
So it should take about 4 to 6 months from when the project starts until hopefully it would go live.
I notice also that we have a lot of old information on the website. Hopefully, we can clear it out faster.
Yes.
Any further comments? Roll call vote then, please.
Councilmember Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, Director Flynn, 15D as well, please.
Good evening again. I have the month of February community announcements. So we'll start off with on Friday, February 11th, the library will be opening at 1 p.m. instead of 10 a.m. due to scheduled maintenance. Then on February 15th, which is next week, we have our Water Tower Social District Improvements Open House. The city is hosting this open house from 5:30 to 7 p.m. in the community center to discuss the redesign and reconstruction of the district's parking lot. Another friendly reminder as to what snow emergencies are. They're typically called when 4 or more inches of snow is expected or falls, or other hazardous conditions necessitate. No parking is permitted on city streets during snow emergencies until they are lifted. We have our Street Trees program, which is finishing up on February 14th. We received this through the Oak Stem Grant Pilot Program, and through this, the city will be able to provide residents with free trees to be placed in the right-of-way in front of their homes. The information as to how residents can sign up is available on our website, and it's a first-come, first-served basis. There is the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program that our library is now registering kids for who are under the age of 6. The program supports pre-literacy skills through repetition, exposure, and bonding with caregivers. This program will get children excited about reading as they earn free books and stickers for every 1,000 books they read. Those interested can register at the information desk at the library. We have our Senior Sunshine Box, and these boxes are designed to bring a smile and a great start to the day. There are 30+ items in each box, and the recipient of each box pulls one item out each morning to start their day with a smile, a laugh, and a feel-good moment. Those interested can sign up at the Recreation Department, and this is limited to the first 50 seniors. These are available for pickup and drop-off starting today, February 7th. And then the library is hosting Into No Man's Land on March 1st at 6 p.m., and this is a talk by local author and Holocaust survivor Irene Miller. She'll be discussing her book, Into No Man's Land, which is a memoir about her experience. Those interested can register on the library's website. We have the new date for the Daddy-Daughter Dance, which is Sunday, May 1st. It was originally scheduled for February 20th. Those interested can call the Recreation Department. And then those who were interested in the February 23rd Meadowbrook Theater trip, that is now sold out. And then finally, this Wednesday, we have our vaccine clinic from 9 to 3 in the community center.
Thank you so much, Director Flynn. 15E, I would like to ask our Deputy Finance Director, Jamin Winters, to join me at the podium, please.
let me try that again. All right, so starting again, our Q2 quarterly investment report shows we have a little over $38 million in cash. Of that, that's including investments. Of that, actual operating cash is $630,000. We have almost $36 million in the Oakland County investment pool, and $16,000 in money market, and another $2 million in long-term investments. Returns have not been great, as anyone could guess right now. We had currently, this past quarter, we got $31,000 in investment revenue, which is down 60% from last year at the same quarter, where we had $78,000. This is largely due to low returns in the Oakland County investment pool. It's down to about 0.17% now. So we're looking to move majority of that cash into longer-term investments, 3 to 5 year securities, to try and get a bigger return. But as of right now, with the way the economy is, with the Fed rates being so low, we wouldn't expect much more than what we're getting. We're still getting a return. We're doing the best we can. We're going to move things around to try and get some more return, but as of right now, until we see some movement in the economy, this is about the best we're going to get.
Jamin, we have about 96% of our excess cash in that investment pool. What portion of that would we want to move, do you think?
I think that's to be determined. We really need to look at what type of options are out there to figure out what's the best return. Again, those 3 to 5 year securities, we can get some pretty good returns, so we'll look at the market and see what we can get, and we can get you some numbers. If anybody has any questions or other questions, I can go over them. If not, we can move on to the Q2 financial report.
Okay, 15F then, if they're
All right. Let's see, so being that this is the end of the second quarter, we should be about 50% in terms of our expenditures, and of course 50% for our revenue, but it doesn't actually usually work out that way, just because of the way that we build property taxes, and all of them get billed on July 1 at the beginning of our fiscal year, so and they're due by the end of August without penalty, so the majority of them come in at the beginning of the year. So currently, we have approximately $18.9 million of revenue for our fiscal year, which is 80%. So obviously that's more than 50%, but again, that's because of property taxes. And we've collected about 96% of the taxes that we've billed so far for this year. We typically end up around 96 to 98%, maybe a little bit more by the final due date, which is in February. But as of right now, we've collected pretty much most of what we're going to see. Again, the rest of it would go to the county as a delinquent amount, and that's when our friend, the Oakland County Treasurer, would do their magic. So, to give you an idea, that 98% is about $14 million in revenue that we've collected for property taxes, of that $18.9 million that we've collected in total for the general fund. Let's see, we've also, a large chunk of it, what we receive is our state revenue sharing. That's estimated to be about $3.6 million this year. We have collected, it's paid in 6 installments throughout the year. We've collected 2 of them, or 3 of them, however, one of them gets moved back to the prior fiscal year. So we've actually only collected 2 out of the 6 for this fiscal year. That's normal, and they'll be continuing to come in. We have one in February, later this month. We have one at the end of April, end of June, and end of August. And again, that's about $3.6 million that we will be getting.
Now, am I correct that in the year 2000, we were getting $5 million from the state?
Well, in total for revenue sharing, you're speaking?
Revenue sharing?
No, it's actually going up this year, so its estimates are going up. So there's probably other numbers that you have.
It actually is going up, that's correct. I just want to say, though, that since 2002, and I make a point to put this in my budget presentation every year, the city has lost somewhere around $20 million in revenue sharing that otherwise would have received. And that was due for the cutbacks that occurred for, 14, 15
And it was
years.
something like $5 million a year that's now cut down to 3.2?
Yeah, so we used to get significantly more, and it's gone down quite a bit. And as City Manager Tungate mentioned, we have put together quite a few graphs that show the dramatic reduction, but it is creeping back up, which is obviously good for the city. So,
My opinion, they took an arm and are giving back fingers.
All right,
Thank you.
so if we move on to other reasons, actually, let me go back a step, sorry about that. District Court is budgeted for a total of $1.3 million of revenue. We're only at 41%, which is about $540,000. That's mainly due to COVID-19, a reduction of number of drivers on the road, number of tickets issued. There's really nothing we can do. It was our best guess to come up with the estimates that we had with the information that we had on hand. And obviously at this point in time, we thought COVID would be not as big of an impact on our community as it has proven to be. So we continue to battle that. And again, with people being quarantined, people working from home, there's just fewer people driving, fewer people and fewer people out and about to do things that would necessitate them visiting the court.
Jamin, at this same point last year, what percentage was the district court at in terms of their revenue? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I would say that, again, it's probably pretty similar. We tried to do the best that we can with estimating when we're budgeting, but it's only with the information we have on hand. So, but we can get that number for sure, and I can relay it to you. So, but we'll continue to monitor and amend as we need to for the court. Obviously, it's a number that we're paying attention to. So, the last item for revenue is our federal grant money. So we did receive ARPA payment, which was $1.45 million. That's the American Rescue Plan Act funds. And we also actually received another $35,000 for the FEMA Federal CARES funds that we weren't necessarily anticipating getting this year. We expected it last year, but it's going to be recorded as revenue this year. So, and then in terms of expenditures, we are at roughly 49%, or $12 million, which is where we would expect to be halfway through the year, barring any huge projects that might be scheduled for the spring. But the biggest items that make up anything that's off track or anything that we didn't expect was we did have some increased healthcare costs for a couple of our departments, but we'll make a budget amendment for that, which I'll talk about next. We have been we've been front-loading our contributions for the public safety and K-9 departments for their DB pension, for their pension funds. So we're at 80% currently of what our annual funding is supposed to be. So we're gonna lower that down now, and then we can obviously use those funds elsewhere. So. And then outdoor activities are a little bit higher. The department is above, and we talked about this, I believe, in the last presentation for the last quarter. The majority of the outdoor activities occur in the summer, so that would be Q1. So that's why their department would seem to be higher than normal. And then, as you know, for the last budget amendments, we had to, there was a surplus at the end of our fiscal year 2021, and the reason for the surplus is because there were various projects that were budgeted in that year that we weren't able to complete or to start. And so in the last budget, in the last round of budget amendments, we actually budgeted those for this year, which takes our balance budget that we passed for this fiscal year and created a use of fund balance of $650,000. So I'll talk more about the budget amendment in the next item, but I just wanted to keep that, or remind you that we're still on task for our 20% fund balance, but that currently, the way that the amended budget sits, we are operating with a deficit budget of $650,000 and that's again because of the surplus from the prior year, and we had to roll over those projects. So, any questions?
Any questions from council? No.
15G, please.
All right. So I believe this is actually a resolution. So let's see. Yep. So in the item that you have in your packet, we're going over the second quarter budget amendment for the general fund and a couple other funds as well. But for the budget, or for the general fund, as you can see on the paperwork, it does show that on September 30th we did amend, or there was a budget amendment to use that $650,000 worth of fund balance. Again, that was because of the surplus from the previous year and the projects being rolled over. And for this particular budget amendment, we are not, the proposed amendment has no impact on the fund balance. So you will still be using the $650,000 for the fund balance. The notable items include, as I talked about before, the self-funded healthcare costs being greater than anticipated, a reduction in maintenance costs due to a 5-year agreement that will be expensed over a 5-year period. We also had a reduction in the allocation of costs from the general fund to the library, an increase in state shared revenue sales tax, or sales tax revenue that we talked about. It is increasing, which is great. We had the recognition of the prior year FEMA revenue, and then a reduction in the library recreation debt service payments due to a county refinancing of the debt. And all those items are in detail and farther into the packet. We also went through a reduction in the library cost allocation from the general fund, as I just talked about. So the general fund is no longer, it is allocating fewer of its costs to the library. So the library will see a little bit of a relief from costs that it would previously have seen.
So you're paying more of the libraries.
Yes, we are assisting them.
We're helping them with their fund.
Yeah, we have a lot of shared services, and so there's many things that we can do to help them and help the city, operate together. So those shared services there's a lot of in-kind services, so there's quite a few things that we can do with the city to help the library, and City Manager Tungate and our teams have been working on that, so.
We're also, just to add one more thing, we're also paying, they are also paying $25,000 less on their debt service, their annual debt service, than they were before. So.
And why is that? How are we?
The city, in a prior budget year, agreed to take on an additional 25, and that was just to help them up, because they weren't.
So that more money can go to the library functions to help the people, and that's good.
And then, by the way, the debt service is less because the county refinanced a portion of the debt, so there's been an improvement on that anyway, but that's just one example.
All right. We also have a reduction in the annual workers' compensation premiums, simply because less workers have been getting hurt over the past few years, and so we've been able to reduce those premiums. And so I guess let's see. The proposed budget amendment has zero impact on the fund balance of the general fund, while keeping the estimated fund balance at approximately 20% of annual expenditures. The amendments to all other funds keep the fund balance at targeted ranges and are done in compliance with the state of Michigan requirements and guidelines. And it's recommended to approve the resolution. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Thank you so much. So we need to pass the resolution?
We need a motion and
A motion
second
to
and
approve.
pass, yeah.
The approved budget amendments, 2022-2. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and is there a second? Thank you. Councilmember Burns. Discussion? Do we need a roll call? Sure, yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner, Councilmember Whitehead, Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Okay. Approved.
Okay, 15H, we have our city assessor, Dawn Sheets, here with us tonight. Hi, Dawn.
Is your green light on?
Sorry.
There you go.
The city's charter states that the Board of Review will meet on the second and fourth Monday in March with approval for an extra day. I'm requesting the extra day so that if we do get an overload of assessment appeals, that I will have that extra day already approved for them to come in.
Good.
And then we are also requesting the city council set the compensation for the members at the same rate as last year, $120 for a full day and $60 for a half day.
Anything further? Is there a motion to adopt the rate of compensation for the Board of Review members and the 2022 meeting dates and times?
So moved?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem? Nope. That was before. Time zap. Thank you. Councilmember Burns?
Second.
Second. Councilmember Whitehead? These people serve, a long day, long busy days, and there's a slight compensation, and we want to thank everyone who's putting in their time for that. A roll call, please.
Mayor McClellan?
Yes.
Councilmember Radner?
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, 15I, we have our annual audit presentation from Raymond Robson. I have Daniel Clark here. Good evening.
Okay, I think the green light is on. Okay. Yes. So thank you for having me tonight, Council, Mayor, City Manager. My name is Daniel Clark. I'm principal at Raymond. Pleasure to do your audit again this year. So as provided, we have this presentation. You would have been provided the financial statements which were issued December 20th, as well as the board communication letter. And this presentation summarizes both of those documents. So just a couple of things I wanted to talk through tonight. Going to introduce the team members. We have some required board communications. Going to talk through the financial results of June 30th of 2021, and then end with some upcoming accounting pronouncements, and then open it up for questions. But feel free, as I go through this presentation, to ask questions. Sometimes it's better just to ask them as they come up. So I introduced myself. Amanda Wedgwood was the senior manager on the engagement this year, similar to the last couple prior years. And then we also had Shelby Bailey, who assisted with both the financial and the single audit, and then Zach Moore, who was also a staff that assisted with the financial audit. So first and most importantly, we're happy to say that we issued an unmodified opinion on the June 30th, 2021 financial statements. And as I stated, those were dated December 20th, 2021. The due date for those was December 31st, so you met the Treasury deadline to get those submitted by the 6 months after year end. We're also asked to communicate whether any accounting pronouncements were adopted during fiscal year 21. There were no material accounting pronouncements that were implemented during the year that would have had a prior period adjustment necessary. Number 3, we're asked to communicate whether estimates were deemed reasonable, and those things include like allowance on uncollectible accounts, depreciation expense, insurance on claims, pension, and OPEB especially, and we assess those and deem those to be reasonable. We're happy to say too that we encounter no difficulties when performing your audit. So Sandra, Carl, Eric, and the rest of the staff, we appreciate all your efforts in getting us the information that was requested and able us to get this done by the deadline. So thank you very much. We're happy to say also that the accounting records that were provided to us, no material adjustments were needed. So that states that the information that was provided to us was accurate in all material respects, which makes the audit go much smoother. We did have one uncorrected misstatement which was noted, and I think it was already mentioned tonight. There was a refunding on the library and recreation bond. Last year, it was not made known until this year, so we just flowed that through the current year P&L. There was no fund balance P&L effect, very minimal government-wide P&L effect, I think like $12,000 or $13,000, so we felt like that was appropriate to flow through the current year. Also happy to state there were no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no other matters that were noted for the financial statement audit. So again, very happy to state that there was a very clean audit this year. Something new for the city this year, a single audit was performed, or it actually is in the final stages of being performed. So as maybe many of you are aware, the city received significant federal dollars related to the COVID relief fund, as well as some other federal dollars, which the city typically receives. But the city received about $2.4 million in federal dollars in 2021, 2.3 of that related to COVID Relief Fund, which was the actual major program that we are in the process of testing. And we will be issuing a separate report outside of the financial statement opinion and report, which is called the single audit. And we will opine on the schedule of federal expenditures, as well as issue 2 separate reports, one related to controls and one related to compliance. And again, that's in the final stages, and we should be issuing that within the next week or so. And there are no findings that have been finalized yet for that report as it stands now. So moving on to the financial results of the city, we'll start with the balance sheet. So assets and deferred outflows total just over $100 million for the city, so $1.2 million, compared to just over $100 million in 2020, so an increase of $1.7 million, which is really only a 1.6 increase in assets fiscal year 2020 compared to fiscal year 21. So very small results. There was an increase in your cash balance, as you'll see in the presentation, about $6.9 million increase in cash and investments. Most of that relates to positive financial results, also a carryover of fund balance, as was stated previously, for projects that had not yet been performed in fiscal year 2021, as well as just some other various changes related to pension and OPEB, mostly due to timing, and then changes in those actuarial assumptions. Next, we'll talk about deferred inflows and liabilities. So at the end of the fiscal year 2021, you had $155 million in liabilities compared to $173 million last year. So actually your liabilities decreased just over $18 million, which is always a great sign. Most of that, or a significant chunk of that, relates to your long-term debt, your net pension liability, and your net OPEB liability. You'll see there that your net long-term debt went from about $33 million down to $29.6 million, so a decrease of 3.2. That's just a result of your annual debt payments with no significant new debt that was issued during the year. Your net pension liability actually saw a significant decrease from $64 million all the way down to $44 million, so a decrease of $20.2 million decrease. Most of that has to do with significant investment returns during the year, and we'll talk about that in a couple slides, but very positive results, as you'll see in your net pension liability. And then your net OPEB liability also decreased, obviously not quite as extreme as the net pension liability, but that went from $64.3 million down to $62.1 million, so a decrease of about $2.2 million. Both in a very positive direction, as you would want to see. So assets minus liabilities is your net position or your equity position, and the city government-wide is made up of 3 different buckets. You have net investment in capital assets, so those things such as your buildings, your infrastructure, your vehicles, made up about 29%, or that represents about $46 million. Your restricted dollars is about 4%, or $6.9 million. And then your unrestricted, which is a negative number, and I'll talk about that briefly on the next slide, which equated to about a negative 67%, or $106 million. And this is a graph of those different buckets over the last 4 years, so that net investment in capital assets at the end of 2021, you had $46 million in net investment in capital assets, an increase of $44 million from 2020. And that changes based on whether you have significant capital additions. That decreases if you have depreciation expense. So obviously over the last couple of years, your net investment in infrastructure, buildings, vehicles has exceeded your annual depreciation expense. Your restricted dollars has actually remained relatively stable over the last 4 years. You're currently at $6.9 million, an increase from last year of 5.7, but again, that has remained relatively stable over the last 4 years. And then, as I spoke to earlier, this is your net investment unrestricted dollars. That very bottom line is that negative number I spoke to, and that takes into account your unrestricted with pension and OPEB. That top line there is as if you took those two different numbers, the pension and OPEB, out of that equation. So you would have been at about a 12.4, 12.5 million positive number, and that number has remained relatively stable over the last 4 years. So often there's significant changes up and down in your pension and OPEB, including the investment as I just spoke to. So obviously that can change wildly. So I like to present it with and without. And as you'll see, you're with all those different factors. You got $105 million negative in net investment, or I'm sorry, unrestricted position with those different factors with the pension and OPEB there. And now we'll move to the P&L. So this is a graph of your revenue and expense over the last 4 years, entity-wide, so all governmental funds, all business type funds. You had $50.8 million in revenue in 2021 related to all different services of the entity, compared to $46 million in 2020. Your expenses were $31.1 million compared to $29.6 last year, with a positive net income or change in net position for 2021 of $19.7 million. Most of that this year and last year relates directly to your changes in your pension and your OPEB. This year specifically related to the significant investment income in your pension. Last year there were significant changes in the assumptions related to the OPEB, related to actual versus expected. So that's why you're seeing that significant net P&L effect. So this year you had about I believe a $12 million return on investment in the public service pension, and you had about a $4.9 million in investment income in your general employee retirement system, which again caused that significant net income in the government-wide. And now we're going to talk about just some of your larger major revenue line items that the governmental funds see year after year. On this slide, you'll see your property tax number. At the end of 2021, you had $18.8 million in property taxes. That continues to increase over the last 4 years compared to last year of $17.9 million. And then that bottom number is your intergovernmental or your state federal dollars. You had about $9.9 million in federal and state dollars compared to just over $7.1 million last year. Most of that increase in that bottom graph is related to those COVID dollars that you received. Again, you received about $2.4 million in COVID-related federal funding, which increased that intergovernmental state federal revenue for 2020 to 2021. And then the other two items are your charges for services and your fines and forfeitures. So you'll see that middle line, you had $2.2 million in charges for services, which remain relatively flat year over year, but your fines and forfeitures dropped from 1.6 to 1.3. Most of that, again, we've seen this very typical in other cities of your size and around the state, just that COVID has caused significant decreases in those types of services as people stayed home and those types of services were not able to be performed. So a significant decrease this year, but we've seen those stabilizing and actually increasing moving forward. And then we'll move specifically to your general fund, which is obviously your general operating fund of the city here. You had about $24.3 million in revenue this year compared to $21 million last year. Most of that increase, again, I've spoken to, this relates to your increase in COVID dollars. And then you had $23.3 million in expenses, which gave you about $1 million in surplus for 2021. Over the last 4 years, you'll see you've had a surplus 3 out of the last 4 years. Last year in 2020, you had a small net loss of about $24,000. But again, most of the years in the past and this year have been positive, and most of them net to zero here. And then this year, obviously, a surplus of about $1 million, expenses less than revenue. And then I think this was spoken to also tonight, your general fund coverage ratio. And we compare your annual expenditures to your fund balance to show how many months in expenses are sitting in your fund balance. And currently, you're at about 2.5 months of general fund coverage ratio, which, as you'll see, this line has remained very stable year over year. And what this represents is about 20%, which is what the number was stated before. And GFOA, they recommend this number be between 2 to 4 months to make sure that you're not struggling with cash flow. So again, it's a very positive thing to see this very stable and in line with what the city has budgeted for that coverage ratio there. And then we'll move quickly to your business type funds, so your charges for services for both enterprise, so your water, sewer, stormwater, and then your internal service funds. So I will state, if you looked at your financial statements this year, it was the first year that we split out stormwater from water sewer, just as a result of the requirement. So you'll see that there's now 2 separate funds, but we combine them for financial statement or for presentation purposes, just for consistency. And you'll see you had about $15.5 million in charges for services this year compared to 14.4 last year. So you'll see over the last 4 years that those charges for services have continued to increase. And then that bottom line there is your charges for services for internal service funds. So those things like your risk management, your motor pool, your retirement health care for court. And that line has remained relatively stable year over year at $1.9 million for 2021. And then we like to talk about cash flow for your business and internal service funds, because those are supposed to be fairly self-sufficient funds. This year, you'll see your enterprise funds had a $2.4 million in positive cash flow for the water, sewer, stormwater. Most of that is a result of your revenue is up for those funds about $1 million. You also had fewer capital expenditures in 2021 compared to 2022, and those are the things that caused you from going from a negative cash flow last year of $852,000 to a positive 2.4. And then that middle line there is your internal service funds. That line has remained relatively stable. You're at about 877 positive cash flow for 2021. And then this is just your operating cash flow. The other one was all combined capital, debt, and operating. As you'll see over the last 4 years, you've had positive operating cash flow for your business type funds, enterprise and internal service funds. This year you got a $5.7 million positive cash flow for your enterprise funds, and a $943,000 for your internal service funds. And then also just lastly, for financial slides here, your cash balances. You had just under $5 million in cash balance in your enterprise fund, so your water, sewer, stormwater, and about a $1.3 million cash balance for your internal service funds. Both of those have increased over last year. And then some upcoming accounting pronouncements over the next 3 years that may or may not impact your financial statements. The next biggest one relates to GASB 87, which relates to leases. That one is effective for your fiscal year 2022, so here coming up June 30th of 2022. And we'll be working with the city to make sure that they're in compliance with that. There's several others here, GASB 89, all the way through the next slide of GASB 97. Most of these we feel like have very little to no impact for the city, but obviously we'll work with them to make sure that if there is any implementation that we need to deal with, that we will work with them with that. And then with that, I can open it up for any questions.
Any questions from council? So, City Manager Tungate, can you summarize that? We've got some good news coming, but with all the different colors on the graphs, it's sometimes not as clear to...
Well, Daniel, thank you so much, by the way, to you and your team for a great job in some difficult circumstances. Madam Mayor, members of council, so a couple of things. Now, I might look at our audits a little bit differently, obviously, just because it's it's my job to make sure this thing runs smoothly. So let me point out some highlights that Daniel mentioned. One was the general fund. We've increased our general fund balance by $959,791. I'm very proud of that, keeping in that, 20-plus or so percentage range, which doesn't sound like much, 2.4 months worth, but that's a far cry from where we were in years past, and I'm very, very proud of that. In addition to that, we made extra pension contributions, $345,000 or so into the general system, and $398,000 into the public safety system. We also contributed an additional $450,000 to our OPEB liability. And I think I've chaired the retirement systems for many years now at this point, but for both systems, the public safety system going into the previous year was 55% funded, ended the last fiscal year at 68% funded.
Repeat those two numbers?
It started at 55% funded, ended the last fiscal year at 68% funded. The general system started the last fiscal year at, was it 43% funded, ended the last fiscal year at 55% funded. And the OPEB liability for each, I believe, is around 10% funded, which for those of you who have followed the retirement systems, that was a pipe dream not too long ago. So very, very proud of that. I think what's also very interesting about the retirement systems is that the annual rate of return in both of the systems was somewhere around, 27%, give or take, which really tells me our investments are secured and in the right places, which in the last downturn, the 2008 downturn, they were not, and we weren't able to recover some of those funds that were lost. So very, very good news there. Also, on the court building fund, the current court building fund, not the court budget, but the court building fund balance is around $357,000. And as some of you know, when we did our big settlement with the other communities in the district court a couple years back, part of the plan was to help grow that fund so we could use some of those funds to repair the facility and so forth. And now we see that fund is in fact growing. It doesn't look like we will need a dramatic increase in our solid waste rates as we go into this new fiscal year. We were expecting to use about $600,000 of fund balance because, as you know, we didn't pass on a rate increase in the solid waste fund to our residents. We kept it where it was. We only ended up using about $161,000 of fund balance, not the $600,000 we had planned on. In our water and sewer and storm utility fund, we will, as we know, because we did not pass on a rate increase, we know we'll have to pass on a rate increase in the next fiscal year. But the good news is I think that will be, I'm not going to commit to a number now, but I do think that number based on the audit will be less than what would have otherwise been determined. So that's good news going into that as well. Let's see. This is not really an audit-related statement, but I also wanted to add that we still have, of the COVID relief dollars, we still have $1.5 million, 1.4 million and some change still set to arrive here this current fiscal year. That would go along with the money we've already received, which I think Daniel will probably preempt another single audit in the next fiscal year. Okay. So, council members, if there aren't, are there any questions for me or Daniel before we move on?
Sounds like a lot of good news.
It is, and one more thing I neglected to say to Madam Mayor and members of council is the increases in tax revenue as a result of some of the economic development projects that we've recently brought here. I don't see Director Maroney here anymore, but one example of that is the Fedex development in the Armory site, which we just announced another project on for those of you that don't know that, which will be similar in size to the Fedex property. The Fedex property is brandishing about $400,000 or so a year in net tax revenue to the city. And if the other project is similar in size, you can expect that it'll do the same. So you're talking around $800,000 in tax revenue that, you know, if we hadn't had these programs in place, we wouldn't have received. So not only are we being more efficient with our dollars, with our taxpayers' dollars, we are also very much finding a way to grow our tax base simultaneously. And that has definitely been a winning formula. So I wanted to add that.
Amazing. Sounds good to get good news. Where are we here? We are on, so do we just accept and file the presentation? And thank you for your time and for taking all the time to explain. Appreciate that. Thank you, City Manager, for all the good news.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. That completes the city manager report for this evening.
Next, we have call to the audience. If you would give us your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Ken Sherman on Jerome and Oak Park. I was going to comment on something that Director Flynn had to say about the website. Just kind of discourages me that the city waited going on 6 years, if I understood her correctly, to update the website. I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense from a municipal standpoint that it finally took 6 years to do that. And just as an example how antiquated the system is, in order for me to find out the council's agenda, I have to go on the City of Oak Park's website under resident, scroll down to city council, and then scroll down to archived council agendas to find the current agenda for the meetings, which makes no sense. Just so you know what Director Flynn was saying, that it's very antiquated and not user-friendly. What I really came up here to talk about was the recent snowstorm and the snow emergency. On the one hand, it was nice for the first time that I've experienced that public safety was out actually ticketing cars that were parked on the street in defiance of the manager's city emergency, although it kind of distressed me that, you know, people did not listen to the city emergency and what it meant, and, you know, did not move their cars off of the street. But I did witness public safety on my street ticketing automobiles, which I had not ever seen before in my many years of living in Oak Park. So I told Director Cooper I was appreciative that they were actually out there, you know, doing that, you know, where they really could have been used for other life-threatening, you know, measures. Secondly, I want to commend, as a dog walker, the people that took the initiative to shovel their walkways, which made it easier to get around, you know, after the snow fell. But I also want to take to task, as a dog walker, the people that did not shovel their snow or left the snow on the walkways for the sun to eventually melt, which led to sidewalks being frozen, which still are, which puts you at life and limb when you're out walking the streets and the sidewalks of Oak Park. And I know that code enforcement, you know, goes out when there's a certain amount of snow, you know, that hasn't been shoveled, but I'm not certain what they can do about the conditions of, you know, the private residents' walkways, which are in many cases on my block a sheet of ice, unfortunately. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Do we have somebody from code? Yeah, Rob.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Brian. I'm at 24231 Majestic, and I feel a little embarrassed and a little ridiculous after sitting through the meeting, see that all the business that's going on, and this is just my little problem. But I'll just say it, and I appreciate, I was on the phone, I talked with Ed, and I emailed with Eric, and I appreciate y'all taking the time. I guess I would just say that it's about my water bill, and my late fees are now more than my water bill. I did find through a link an agency that would help, and they just say that, and it's OLHSA, the Oakland Livingston Human Service Agency, that Oak Park's not a full participant in the benefits that they offer. I don't know why. I don't understand, most of the business that's covered here in these meetings. But I would appreciate either an explanation why I'm not able to accept their benefit, and hopefully maybe there's just something that could be fixed so that someone like me or other people like me could benefit. I appreciate your time. I know it's a long day for y'all.
Thank you so much for coming in, and City Manager Tungate will speak to your question.
Thank you. And I know you and I were emailing today, so I intend on contacting you tomorrow, and we're going to talk through some of the specific issues, including some of the fees and who to contact for assistance. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Anybody else? Okay. Then we'll go to call to the council. Everyone knows we've had a lot of ice, a lot of snow, and a lot of cold. The Radner family, if I may, had a very well-deserved vacation down in Florida. Unfortunately, I think they had a 50-degree cold spell, and they had iguanas falling out of the trees. So we might have a lot of problems in Oak Park, but we don't have any iguanas falling out of trees. Just saying. Winterfest, thank you to the wonderful Recreation Department. Was a tremendous success. I always love the critters. I loved petting the reindeer from over the rooftop farm. Isn't that too cute? And the horses who were taking the sleigh rides around. A lot of happy kids, a lot of happy families. Very successful event. It is Black History Month. I think when we were going to school, we didn't learn any of it, and it's time for us to get better educated, and I think the library has packets available for all ages on Black history. Business development, it was brought up, another 8-mile project. Opus Group, I think, is breaking ground on 250,000 square feet of industrial property, and there will be tax revenue from that. It's wonderful news, just wonderful. On the We Can All Use a Laugh department, I was driving on 696, and I see the sign that says, "Let's hook up sometime." And I did a double take and looked, and it was a sign on a tow truck. Mayor Pro Tem, top that.
I can't. But I did want to also commend the Recreation Department for all the great work they've been doing. Winterfest was really a success. It was so much fun. And lots of people came out, and they seemed to have a good time. But I also want to mention that other things that have been going on out of a department that doesn't have a big staff, but they're doing programming that's really very successful. They've got Hip Hop Dance Club going on at Oak Park High. We had our second annual holiday decoration contest, which was a success. And the Senior Sunshine Box, which Courtney Flynn talked about, it's just a great idea. You know, it just, again, it just puts a smile on people's faces. They know that we're concerned about them. The city it just does wonderful things. And I just wanted to commend Parks and Rec for all the good work that they do. Also, I just wanted to say that, yes, as a dog walker, it's treacherous out there. I mean, it is treacherous. I think it's worth telling people again that if you have an accident on a sidewalk in front of somebody's house, they're liable if you get injured. I know it's not easy to be shoveling, but it's almost impossible to walk. And people are in the streets now. I see them walking in the streets. The city issued almost 500 tickets during the snow emergency to cars that were not removed. And it remains to be seen how many of those tickets will actually get paid. Hopefully, there is a fine attached to it, and hopefully people will not leave their car in the street the next snowstorm. Anyway, thank you for coming out, everybody. Have a good night.
Councilmember Radner of Iguana fame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last week, the City of Oak Park and the extended 45th District Court community lost an absolute pillar of our community. Judge Ben Friedman had served on the bench for 34 years. I remember as a child the Friedman-Frankel signs that would go up every once in a while for the district court. Obviously, his seat was eventually taken over by his daughter, Judge Michelle Apple, who is still there. We all know her and appreciate her. But I just wanted to take a quick minute to recognize Judge Friedman for the decades and decades of service that he gave to our city and to our community, and to wish Judge Apple, as we say in Hebrew, that she should be consoled among the mourners of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Well thought. Councilmember Burns.
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out and tuning in. Please be conscious of the cold weather. Please wrap yourself tightly, look in on your seniors, and do not leave your pets outside overnight. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Councilmember Whitehead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to say we survived the snow. Between my house and my mom's house, I probably shoveled about 6 times. I paid people to shovel. It just never ended. It was Groundhog Day, but we made it through it, and the city did a great job. I want to say Happy Black History Month, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. And if somebody in your neighborhood is not shoveling, you can report them to code. And, correct? Correct. So, we want to do it to protect ourselves and to protect them. And the same with I think a lot of people don't get that all the information that we put out on all of our channels about a snow emergency, some people just are into their lives and don't get the information. So it would be so helpful if you see a car on your street, if you could just let the person know that the tickets are over $100 and we don't want you to get a ticket. We want you to just move your car. We're not in it for the revenue. We're in it so that the snow plows can plow the streets and make it safe for emergency vehicles. If your mom is at the end of the block and the ambulance can't get through because there's cars parked and there's snow in the way, that's what we want to avoid. So your safety is our biggest concern. Stay warm and have a good week. Thank you. No further business to come before this council. We are adjourned.